Welcome to the Alaska Weather Show. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan. I'll be your host this Sunday evening, September 19th, 2021. And to follow up on this broadcast, if you'd like additional, more detailed information, you can go to weather.gov/Alaska. A lot to talk about. Well, we have a fall storm. Early season snows will be possible, especially across the southeast interior, along the central and eastern Alaska range, and any of the mountains, especially through the southeast coastal areas. Mountains there in the higher elevations could see the first accumulating snows, as well as including the Copper River Basin here as we go through late Monday into the day on Tuesday. We will see a series of 3 Gulf low pressure systems, one right now that's there, another one that'll be moving in here toward Thursday and Friday, and yet another one late next weekend, Sunday into the following Monday. That spells some very wet weather for the Panhandle. And then coming up astronomically, take a look if the skies are clear in your areas. We have the full harvest moon tonight into Monday, and the autumn equinox arrives on Wednesday, though some parts of the state are going to get a taste of winter rather early. We have winter storm warnings and watches in effect at this time. And it's still looking like cool and mainly dry weather should prevail at the very end of the month, September 25th through the 29th, for the southwest interior and parts of south central. So going on and looking at where are these current advisories, watches, warnings, we have a winter weather advisory till midnight this evening for the south slope of the Brooks Range, including Bettles on up toward Arctic Village. As much as 4 inches of snow has been reported around Coldfoot, and that snow will be diminishing here as we head through the overnight and tomorrow. The cold front responsible for that's butted up now to the Alaska Range and will continue to slowly push south and east, with colder air continuing to filter southward as a low pressure sits up along the north central Gulf. It's going to tap into that colder air and provide moisture for some heavier wet snowfall across portions of the southeast interior. We have a winter storm watch that is in effect for areas along the Alcan border, including Eagle and Northway, and that's for later Monday afternoon into early Wednesday. And we also have a winter storm warning in effect for the central and eastern parts of the Alaska Range, where as much as 5 to 10 inches of snow could fall in the vicinity of Delta Junction along the Alaska Highway, and places like Eagle could see as much as 6-8 inches of snow there along the Alcan border. We'll also see some gustier winds develop in some of the passes like Isabel Pass. And further south, we are looking for stronger north winds setting up on the backside of the low as we go through Monday evening and to Tuesday. It'll cause some wind gusts upwards of 45 to 55 miles an hour out of the north at places like Whittier, Girdwood, and Seward, and also could cause some ash to become resuspended in the vicinity of southern Kodiak Island due to that ash that was deposited way back in the 1912 eruption of Nova Rupta. So keep that in mind. That could lead to some poorer air quality and haze in the sky across South Kodiak Island Monday night into Tuesday. Here's the precipitation forecast in terms of liquid amounts. Pretty good soaking there Monday along the north central Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, with even heavier rains down into British Columbia. Some areas are easily picking up an inch or two of rainfall, and then another inch or two of rain, especially in the coastal mountains there, the intercoastal mountains on Tuesday. And you can see that area of precipitation over the southeast interior along the Alaskan Highway. So that's what's going to contribute with the colder air to the early season snowfall there. Now, as far as satellite imagery, we can see the moisture lifting north and northeastward from out of the Gulf and North Pacific. That's all heading to close in the clearing that we had in the vicinity of Anchorage, the south central areas. It was a frosty morning, widespread frost and freezing temperatures across much of the south central areas. And now to the north, you can see the low pressure circulation up there just north of Utqiagvik. That's going to trailing cold front now pushing into Fairbanks, and that front will butt up against the Alaska Range and eventually provide that colder air for the snow to form here as we head into later Monday and Tuesday across the southeast interior. And so the sunshine, clear skies that we've seen across south central areas here this weekend, that's going away. And definitely a more stormy pattern is going to emerge across southern parts, southeast parts of the state here as we head through this week. So here's the current situation. We have a cold front that'll work its way in through the northwest and continue southeastward, providing the cold air as low pressure rides northward up into the north central Gulf on Monday. That's going to allow the precipitation to change over to snow, and accumulating snows are likely as Monday evening as we go into Tuesday there across the southeast interior. And the low continues to sit over the north central Gulf Coast on Tuesday with yet another low. That'll be the one that will impact the Gulf on Thursday south of the central Aleutians. Low temperatures Monday morning will be in the mid-40s across the southeast, 30s and lower 40s south central. Highs still on Monday south from Talkeetna and Glen Allen southward could hit 50. But after that, colder air is going to be coming in. Low temperatures Tuesday morning, 40s across the panhandle, generally 30s with some 20s there in the interior of the southeast and portion of the state, with highs only in the 40s at best, 30s in the mountains and the colder areas around the Copper River Basin. And then across the north slope, look at these temperatures. The Brooks Range had some readings down in the teens for lows, 20s elsewhere, and then back up for highs only in the 30s to maybe lower 40s in the Yukon Valley. And temperatures, again, where there's snowfall, fresh snow will easily get well down into the teens, south slope of the Brooks Range, 20s elsewhere, lower 30s along the west Seward coast. And then Tuesday afternoon highs generally in the 30s north of the Yukon River and lower 40s south of there. Morning lows will be in some areas still dip into the below freezing across the southwest interior, 40s along the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutian Chain. Generally 40s on Monday afternoon, though lower 50s along the Alaska Peninsula. And as we go into Tuesday morning, we're still looking at lows down into the upper 20s in some cases below freezing there, especially west side of the Alaska Range. And then for Tuesday afternoon, highs will generally be in the 40s across the southwest interior, lower 50s as you go out the length of the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. So a quick check of our temperature outlook, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, September 25th through the 29th as we close out the month of September. Below normal temperatures likely across, centered on the southwest and south central parts of the state, including Cook Inlet. And precipitation then is expected to average below normal there in same areas, Cook Inlet on up through the southwest, south central interiors, with above normal precipitation potentially there over the panhandle and up there across the northwest coast. And certainly we are going to see a more active pattern coming up here as we go through this week into next weekend, especially anybody along the Gulf and some of that moisture that manages to work up into the interior. Coming up next is Grant Smith. He is of the Juneau Forecast Office, and he'll have a short segment talking about how meteorologists collect data to predict the weather and what's involved in taking a cooperative observation.
Hello everyone, meteorologist Grant Smith here. I'm down here at Auk Bay doing a little bit of science on this Sunday. Well, I mean, it's not the most exciting science, but it is a part of weather forecasting, and that's data collection. You see, part of predicting the weather is actually knowing what's been happening or what's going on right now. And we do this through automated stations that record the weather and send it back to the Weather Service office, every hour at minimum, sometimes every 5 to 10 minutes. But we also have co-op stations around Southeast Alaska that you can volunteer for and help us out, where they take reports once a day and send them in. Usually it's temperatures, rain, and snowfall. So why don't you join me in today's co-op observation here at Auk Bay. Step one that I usually do is temperatures, and that's basically using this little box right here, recording what the temperature is and what it has been over the last 24 hours. The next step I usually do is collect the rainfall amounts or moisture amounts, and we use one of these special little rulers and stick it in our can here. That's actually quite simple. You just stick the ruler in and read how much rain is on there, which, nothing. The next step is measuring the snowfall, which in September is kind of difficult to do because, it hasn't snowed in quite a while here in Juneau. Now we normally have this little whiteboard sitting on the ground that collects the snowfall, and then we use just a normal yardstick to measure it. So let's go ahead and measure the snowfall. I get 0. And that's it. After all the data is recorded, all the instruments are reset, and another observation will be made in 24 hours. So now I'll head back to the office, record all that information in the computer, and that data is fed into the computer models, which then allow us to make a forecast. For all of us here at the National Weather Service here in Juneau, I'm meteorologist Grant Smith. If you are interested in becoming a co-op, feel free to email us at juneau.weather@noaa.gov.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Well, it's time now for your flying weather, and if you are planning a flight Monday into Tuesday, we do have some rather active weather, especially across the Gulf, Panhandle, southeast interior, as well as across portions of the interior, Alaska Range, and up there along the northwest. Low pressure is going to be moving from the southwest Gulf up into the north central Gulf here Monday into Tuesday. With it, a variety of weather, lowering ceilings due to cloud cover, fog, rain, snow in the mountains, especially southeast interior and coastal mountains there along the Gulf. And then back up through the Alaska Range and portions of the Northwest, we'll continue to see areas of IFR Monday into Monday afternoon, with the focus there on the southeast interior. And then as more moisture spreads inland across the Panhandle, we are anticipating some steadier rains, low elevations, though the higher elevations there in the mountains picking up snowfall. And back through the Northwest, we do anticipate areas of IFR. That'll be the case Tuesday morning, with more widespread IFR conditions across the southeast interior and along the Alcan border, and all of the southeast Panhandle in response to that low pressure there sitting out over the northern Gulf. May improve slightly, still areas of IFR there on Tuesday afternoon across the inner areas of the Panhandle, back up to the interior southeast along the Alcan border, back up through the northwest coast along the north side of the Seward Peninsula, and then back out through the central Bering Sea. Past conditions on Monday look for Anaktuvuk as well as Adigan to go from VFR to MVFR, and then further south and west, Lake Clark, further south down there along the Alaska Range, MVFR to VFR, though Merrill will start out with IFR conditions and MVFR conditions for later morning afternoon. That'll also be the case at Rainy Pass. Look for IFR conditions in the morning becoming MVFR. Also Windy Pass, IFR becoming MVFR. And Isabel will see MVFR conditions become IFR. It's some of that moisture works its way not just with the cold front that's pressing south and east of the Alaska Range, that colder air, but also the low pressure moisture lifting northeastward from the north central Gulf. And then Mentasta should see VFR conditions become MVFR by Monday afternoon. And Tanita, look for MVFR conditions going to IFR on Monday. And Portage starting out IFR becoming MVFR, though IFR conditions will be more widespread the further east you fly of Portage Pass through Prince William Sound and along the north central Gulf Coast. Chilkoot and White on Monday will be socked in with IFR conditions throughout the day there across the northern Panhandle, with more widespread IFR conditions likely there across the Panhandle as we go through the day Monday and into Tuesday. Freezing levels overall have come down to below 2,000 feet across the northwest two-thirds of the state. Surface freezing levels in the morning at times, especially where skies are clear in southern areas. Freezing levels are briefly up around 6,000 feet there, the outer portion of the Panhandle, as well as the tip of the Alaska Peninsula, with a brief max upwards around 8,000 feet in the central Aleutians. Best chance of icing will be along the north central Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound eastward through the Panhandle between 7,000 and 12,000 feet, and then up through the southeast interior along and south of the Alaska Range, 4,000 to 12,000 feet, and along the northwest coast between 2,000 and 10,000 feet. At jet stream level, 30,000 feet, there is a low pressure circulation over the Gulf. Another one up there north of the Arctic coast there in the Beaufort Sea, and then we have southwest wind max coming into British Columbia and the southern Panhandle of in excess of 115 to 130 knots. And then on the mid-levels dropping down to 9,000 feet, continuing to see strong southwest flow coming into British Columbia upwards to 75 knots with that low over the northern Gulf. And still that circulation residing in the mid-levels there north of the Arctic coast. And on the backside of the trough, northerly winds across the west side of the state, 35 to 40 knots. And as we drop down to 3,000 feet, low pressure circulation near the surface there continues over the northwestern Gulf with winds coming onshore there through the panhandle from the southwest at 40 knots. On the backside, north winds to 40 knots across the interior southwest through Kodiak Island and the Alaska Peninsula, with northwest winds along the Arctic coast upwards of 35 to 40 knots. This is going to translate to surface turbulence there along the northwest coast and Arctic coast between surface and 3,000 feet, surface to 4,000 feet across much of the Alaska Peninsula, extending eastward across the northern Gulf Coast, surface to 5,000 feet across much of the panhandle. So take care if you are thinking of having a flight.
Just as the sun is part of weather on Earth, it also affects weather in space. The sun creates solar wind by steadily releasing a flow of plasma particles in all directions around it. Sometimes the sun gives off a flash of light and X-rays. This is known as a solar flare. When massive bursts of particles explode into space, we call it a coronal mass ejection, or CME. When a CME is directed toward Earth, it hits the magnetosphere, the magnetic field around our planet that protects us. If the storm is large, we may even get to enjoy a light display in the sky called the auroras. In space, satellites may be damaged, and astronauts should take cover. On Earth, people do not feel any physical effects. We may lose electricity in some areas, polar flights may be rerouted, and satellite services may be disrupted. While these situations aren't ideal, they are rare and fixable. This is why we will continue to study the sun and its interactions with Earth and the solar system.
Longing for more space, open skies, and exotic travel? Then look up, about 30 to 600 miles straight up, at the ionosphere, Earth's interface to space. Nestled far above the clouds but below outer space, this little understood destination invites you to explore its many features. Experience both the weather from Earth and the weather from space. Marvel at the ballet of radio waves and navigation signals, like GPS, leaping through this particle paradise. Sit back, relax, and take in the aurora, some satellites, and the International Space Station as they sail by. And you'll want your camera handy for one of the region's signature features, bright and colorful air glow. This daily show is made possible by the ionosphere's own swirling charged particles, because that's what the ionosphere is. It's all charged particles. During the day, enjoy the sea of particles, freshly energized by the sun. As the sun sets, this particle party relaxes and the air glow thins. Our quieter nightlife lets you gaze into clearer skies. The ionosphere is in constant motion, an amazing effect of space weather. Don't miss when solar storms rain down. The storm separates the particles even more, making this colorful region delightfully more dense in some places and stunningly sparse in others. And don't forget about storms from Earth below. Your weather from back home also stirs up this one-of-a-kind destination. Experience the unique beauty of every season, as changes in Earth's atmosphere, daily and annually, can create pressure waves, changing the ionosphere's shape and density. Venture to the equator, where our particles are packed in lush and thick. Cruise along a magnetic field line and see how the ionosphere's charged material also interacts with Earth's own magnetic field. Don't miss the superhighway of particles zipping out to space and back down to the planet. This unpredictable parade of charged particles can help you unplug and unwind. This is because the crowd of particles can garble the radio and satellite communications from home. The ionosphere welcomes you to discover more about this little-known region. After all, once you've explored this interface to space, who knows how much farther you'll be able to go.
When a star, bigger and more massive than the Sun, runs out of fuel at the end of its life, its core collapses while the outer layers are blown off in a supernova explosion. What's left behind depends on the star's original mass. A star roughly 10 to 20 times our Sun leaves behind a neutron star. A more massive star becomes a black hole. Unlike black holes, neutron stars are directly observable, usually as pulsars, the lighthouses of the cosmos. Discovered 50 years ago, they are the densest observable objects in the universe. Neutron stars compress up to twice the Sun's mass into a city-sized sphere. Matter is packed so tightly that a teaspoon of neutron star interior would weigh more than 1 billion tons on Earth. Still, the nature of the ultra-dense matter in the cores of neutron stars is unknown. Because neutron stars pack so much mass into such a tiny volume, they produce gravity strong enough to bend the light they emit, distorting their appearance in a way that enables the mass and size of the star to be measured. Scientists cannot reproduce the extreme conditions in and around neutron stars on Earth. They must look into the galaxy to answer decades-old questions about extreme matter and gravity. NASA's Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer mission, or NISA, will make X-ray observations of neutron stars from its perch on the International Space Station. It will give astronomers more insight into these mysterious objects, helping determine what is under their surface. A multi-purpose mission, NISA includes a technology demonstration called Sextant. It will analyze NISA's observations to validate the use of rapidly rotating neutron stars as navigation beacons for travel in deep space throughout the solar system and beyond.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Well, welcome back, and in your marine weather, we start out with the sea ice edge, and we can see a lot of open water throughout the northwest and northern Arctic coast. No issues there, and we are continuing to await within the next week or so the minimum retreat or northern extent of the ice, and that will likely occur here as we get toward the end of September or sometime in early October, even though we are sliding into a colder pattern, especially across southern parts of the state. We are looking for a low pressure out over the north central Gulf on Monday, causing south winds anywhere from 15 upwards to 25 to 30 knots, Petersburg down through Ketchikan, and some gusts up to 40 knots there in the vicinity of Petersburg. Waves running 5 to 6 feet, though only about 3 feet in Lynn Canal, and then 35 to near 40 knot gales from the south, southeast, Craig to Yakutat, with waves generally in the 12 to 17 foot range. By Tuesday, occluded front works its way inland a bit, turns winds more south-southwest along the coast at 25 knots. They come down. Waves along the coastal areas there generally running 12 to 17 feet. And then for the interior, inner waterways, winds will be out of the south-southeast 20 knots, gust up to 35 knots possible. Petersburg waves 4 to as high as 8-9 feet there at the mouth of Dixon Entrance. All right, across south-central areas, the low is centered south of Cordova. You can see the counterclockwise circulation. Winds will be out of the north on the back side of it, and we're looking at winds 20 knots, 3-footers, and Prince William Sound, and perhaps some 30-knot winds from the northwest there between the mouth of Cook Inlet northeast of Kodiak, with waves of 8 to 10 feet. And then on Tuesday, those winds will further strengthen out of the northwest, with winds as high as 35 upwards to 45 knot gales there just northeast of Kodiak and south of the Kenai, with waves 13 to as high as 18 feet there in the northwest Gulf. And up along the inner canals, looking like 25 knot winds from the northwest Prince William Sound, waves 4 feet, in the upper Cook Inlet north at 25 knots, waves 6 feet. Across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, winds will be out of the north-northwest, 25 to 30 knots, waves running around 11 feet on the North Pacific Gulf side for Monday, 7 to 8 feet on the Bering side. And then on Tuesday, strongest winds will be up in the vicinity of Kodiak Island, 30-35 knots. Waves could be as high as 13 feet off of AKwx, and then off to the further west, winds will be out of the north-northeast 15 to 20 knots on the Bering side with waves of 5 to 6 feet. The eastern Aleutians on Monday will see a mixed bag of winds, northwest 20 to 25 knots on Alaska, Dutch Harbor, but more variable toward AKwx, and then southeasterly ahead of the next low pressure approaching. They're west of Adak, and waves generally 5 to 6 feet on the Bering side, 5 to 9 feet on the Pacific side, and then there's that low south of Adak and AKwx. You can see gales of upwards to 40 knots there on the North Pacific side, waves 9 to 12 feet. On the Bering side, winds will be out of the east-northeast, 30 to as high as 35 knot gales, especially in the vicinity of the central Aleutians, waves 7 to 12 feet. And across the west coast, winds will generally have a north-northwest component to them along the west coast shore, and anywhere from 20 to as high as 30 knots there south of Nunavik Island. Waves will be highest perhaps 8 to 10 feet south of Nunavik Island, elsewhere generally in the 4 to 6 foot range. And then on Tuesday, look for weak high pressure circulation along the coast there in the vicinity of Nunavik Island. So winds are going to be turning from east back around to the southwest, south of St. Lawrence, 15 to 20 knots, and waves generally around 4 feet. Across the Arctic coast, winds will be out of the west, 25 to 30 knots, waves generally running 10 feet, though they could be locally as high as 12 feet from Utqiagvik down toward Wainwright and north of Point Lay, and northwest winds 20 to 25 knots coming into Kotzebue and Norton Sounds around the strait, with highest waves 8 to 11 feet lower Chukchi Sea. And then across the Arctic coast on Tuesday, winds come down a bit from the west-northwest 15 to 20 knots, waves generally 7 to 9 feet, and the lower Chukchi Sea northwesterly winds around 20 knots and waves 6 to 8 feet. And there is low pressure there Monday, lifting up in the north central Gulf, bringing the gusty conditions along portions there of the Gulf Coast, and the low sitting up north of the Arctic coast. That'll be the primary weather feeder there for the northwest coast, bringing some stronger winds. So that's the show for tonight. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back again tomorrow.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.